The emperor's new clothes. Once upon a time, in a grand kingdom far away, lived an emperor who was completely obsessed with fashion. He didn't care about his soldiers, or the theater, or even going for a nice drive in the park. He had a different outfit for every single hour of the day. Instead of being in his council chamber, you'd most likely find him in his enormous dressing room, admiring his latest purchase. Life in his city was always bustling and cheerful, with visitors coming and going every day. One day, two swindlers arrived. Oh no! They claimed they could create the most magnificent fabric imaginable. It had a special quality. It was completely invisible to anyone who was unfit for their job or hopelessly stupid. The emperor heard this and thought, "This is brilliant. These clothes would be incredibly useful." He imagined all the possibilities. "If I had a suit made from this fabric," he mused, "a cook separate the wise from the foolish with just a glance. I must have this fabric woven for me immediately." He didn't hesitate. He gave the two swindlers a huge sum of money up front so they could start their work right away. The swindlers demanded the finest, most expensive silk threads and the purest gold for their creation. They set up two large looms and pretended to be working tirelessly, day and night. But in reality, their looms were completely empty. All the beautiful materials and the heaps of money they received went straight into their own pockets. They just sat there, making weaving motions in the air, creating nothing at all. After some time had passed, the emperor grew curious. What if, ... what if I can't see the fabric? What would that say about me? The thought was unsettling. He couldn't bear the idea of appearing stupid or unfit to be emperor. So, he decided to send someone else first, to test the waters. He's a very sensible man, the emperor reasoned. He's surely fit for his position. If anyone can see the fabric, it will be him. He can go and report back to me. So, the good old minister went to the room where the two swindlers were pretending to work. When he entered, he saw them gesturing at the two empty looms. The minister stared. Hit. Couldn't see a thing. There was absolutely nothing on the looms. Good heavens! He thought to himself, completely shocked. Can it be that I am a fool? I never would have thought so. And no one must ever find out. Am I unfit for my job? No, it just won't do to admit that I can't see the cloth. The two swindlers, seeing his confusion, motioned for him to come closer. Isn't the pattern exquisite? One of them asked. The other chimed in, pointing at the empty space. The poor old minister leaned in, pretending to examine the non-existent fabric. He couldn't see anything because, of course, there was nothing there to see. But what could he do? He couldn't admit the truth. So, he nodded his head and said, "Oh, it is magnificent. Absolutely charming. What a splendid pattern, and what vibrant colors. I will certainly tell the emperor how pleased I am with it." The swindlers beamed. "We are so glad to hear it," they said, and then they started naming all the non-existent colors and describing the intricate, imaginary pattern in great detail. The minister listened carefully, memorizing every word so he could repeat it all back to the emperor. The swindlers, now even more confident, demanded more money, more silk, and more gold, claiming they needed it to finish the suit. And just like before, it all went straight into their own bags. The emperor was delighted by his minister's glowing report, but he wanted a second opinion. This time, he decided to send another trusted official, an honest and respectable man from his court. Surely, he would be able to see it. So, the honest official went to the weaver's room. And just like the minister before him, he looked and looked. "I know for a fact I am not stupid," he thought to himself. "So, this can only mean one thing. Tea. But I must not let anyone suspect it." So, when the swindlers pointed to the empty space and praised the beautiful clothes that weren't there, He played along. "Oh, yes, it's quite remarkable," he said, trying to sound impressed. "Truly a work of art." He then returned to the emperor and gave an equally enthusiastic report, praising the wonderful cloth he hadn't seen. Soon, the whole city was talking about this incredible, magical fabric. Everyone was desperate to see it and find out just how stupid or incompetent their neighbors were. The emperor, hearing all the buzz and the glowing reports from his two most trusted men, decided he couldn't wait any longer. He gathered a grand entourage of courtiers, including the clever minister and the honest official who had already been together. They all marched to the room where the cunning swindlers stood. The two officials who had been there before immediately started pointing at the empty looms. "Look, Your Majesty," one said. "Is the design not just perfect?" The other added. "And the colors, are they not divine?" They assumed, of course, that everyone else could see the fabric they were pretending to admire. Absolutely nothing. A cold dread washed over him. "What is this?" he thought, his heart pounding. "I see nothing at all. This is terrible. Can I be a fool? This is the most dreadful thing that could ever happen to me." Read out loud, he said, "Oh yes, it is very beautiful. It has my highest approval." He nodded his head in satisfaction, staring at the empty loom, terrified of letting anyone know the truth. All the courtiers who were with him looked as well. And just like the emperor, they saw nothing. But did they say anything? They all advised him to have a new suit made from this splendid material to wear in the grand procession that was scheduled to happen very soon. The emperor was so pleased that he awarded each of the swindlers a medal to wear and bestowed upon them the grand title of the Imperial Court Weavers. The night before the procession, the swindlers put on a great show. They stayed up all night, burning more than 16 candles, so everyone could see how busy they were, finishing the emperor's new suit. They made big snipping motions in the air with giant scissors. They sewed with needles that had no thread. Finally, as morning dawned, they announced, "Behold! The emperor's new clothes are ready." The swindlers held up their empty hands as if they were holding a delicate garment. "Here are the trousers," one said. "Here is the coat," said the other. "And here is the mantle." They described the imaginary clothes in loving detail. "They are as light as a spider's web," they explained. "One might feel as if one has nothing on at all, but that is the very beauty of it." All the courtiers murmured in agreement. "So that we may help you put on the new ones, right here in front of the great mirror." He undressed, and the swindlers pretended to dress him, piece by imaginary piece. The emperor turned this way and that in front of the mirror. He couldn't see a single stitch on his body, but he couldn't admit that. "How handsome you look, Your Majesty." "What a pattern!" The Grand Master of Ceremonies announced that the canopy bearers were ready outside, waiting to hold the canopy over the emperor in the procession. "Well, I am ready," said the emperor, turning one last time in front of the mirror. The chamberlains, who were supposed to carry the train of his mantle, stooped down and fumbled with the floor, pretending to pick up the invisible train. They then held their hands up in the air and walked carefully, not daring to let on that there was nothing there to hold. And so, the emperor walked in the procession under his magnificent canopy. The streets were lined with people, and everyone in the windows and on the balconies cried out, "Oh, how beautiful the emperor's new clothes are! What a magnificent train on his mantle! And how perfectly they fit!" Because that would mean they were either stupid or unfit for their jobs. And the emperor walked proudly, believing he had fooled them all. But then, in the middle of all the fake praise and polite applause, the child, too young and innocent to understand the pretense, simply pointed and yelled out, "But he hasn't got anything on." The child's father quickly said, "Hush, my dear, listen to the words of the innocent." But it was too late. One person whispered to another what the child had said, Soon, a ripple of laughter and murmurs spread through the entire crowd like wildfire. Finally, everyone was shouting it. He hasn't got anything on. The emperor is naked. The emperor heard them, and he shuddered. A terrible, sinking feeling came over him. Sir, he held his head up even higher, looking prouder than ever before. And his chamberlains walked behind him, holding on even tighter to the train that wasn't there. He walked on, exposed not by a magical fabric, but by the simple, honest truth spoken by a child. And from that day on, people remembered the emperor not for his wealth or power, but for the day he paraded through town in his imaginary clothes. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more classic tales. See you next time.